All right, we are live. We have a special episode for you guys today.
We
We've got a
do.
guest on. We're bringing on Samaire Armstrong. She is an actress and she is starting, I believe, directing and some of her own projects she's getting going. She was in a movie called It's a Boy Girl Thing in 2006.
I used to
And
love that movie.
yes, it's so cute. It's kind of like a Freaky Friday situation. And then let's see. I love seeing celebrities and people from Hollywood speaking out. I think it's so awesome, and she's so passionate, and I love her attitude. So we're going to bring her on and have a little chat about what's going
Yeah.
on, and what we think is about to happen, and how we woke up. So let's bring her on, Samaire.
Hey,
Hey,
Hi
hey,
guys. Hi. Thank you for having me.
thank you so
we're
much for
glad
being
to
here.
have you.
Yeah, we're hyped. We were just having a good talk about how we woke up and
Oh,
all that.
I know it's so easy to just get rolling and just like
Yeah.
it's hard to walk away. There's so much to talk about.
No.
hmm
Yes, we were just kind of talking about like red pill moments, if you will, and
Mhm,
how we
mhm,
got out of the matrix, so to speak.
mhm.
But like I said, I'm on the lookout for like celebrities that are speaking out, or anyone who's been in the industry who's saying
Mhm.
something, because it's not that common.
I know.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really admire you for that.
Well,
You can also tell who's good and who's bad through who is speaking out because most of the people in the industry are against the good side because they've been bad.
it's I think there's a lot of that. I think it's sort of like a pyramid. The way I look at it is there's people on the top, sort of the quote unquote Hollywood elite, and by design, they either have done some gnarly things or are being paid to project a story, right? So
Yeah.
then under that tier, you have people who, yes, definitely are getting paid to put out a message. But the following tier is the people who want to be known as quote unquote Hollywood elite, and they're just saying the same message because
hmm
they're saying it, so I'm going to say it. And also in the midst of that, you have people who don't really think for themselves. And I say this all the time. It's like Hollywood is a industry of saying other people's thoughts, having other people's feelings. There's not a lot of emphasis on individualism, or it's always been a united front. It's never been about like critical thinking. And the other thing is that what was the other thing I was going to say? In acting, you go to school for years to justify something, justify your motives for something. So anything that people are confronted with, you're justifying why that's meant to be. You're not critically thinking why that's meant to
hmm
be. So you're, ramming some information into your brain and making it fit so that it projects a certain way. And that's what these people are meant to do. And we've seen the documentaries. We know what's up. We know what Hollywood is
Yeah, yeah.
actually about. And that's really sad to me because I always wanted to be an actress since I was 3 years old, for as long as I can remember. It was about like telling stories of moral grit and
Yeah.
perseverance and super, the hero, the anti-hero. And now as like time has gone on, it's been very clearly revealed that this is just propaganda, what's being
Yeah,
put
yeah,
out
yeah,
right
yeah.
now. And I think for me and the few people from Hollywood that have spoken out, for me personally, I know like it's generally people like on fringe, like maybe haven't been in the limelight for quite some time. And I
Mhm.
think it's people who no longer depend financially on Hollywood to speak out. And that's definitely how it is for me. I've been working for 20 years straight. I
Yeah.
still work. I get offers still after even shockingly after even having spoken out. But um I actually don't rely upon Hollywood for my financial well-being because I have other tools in my toolbox to make money with. I don't have
Yeah.
an OnlyFans account, but if you but I help people
Who
get
doesn't?
sober. That's part of my life experiences.
Yeah.
I myself am sober, so I help people get sober, and that's been something that I've been doing for quite a few years, and it allows me the freedom to not be held up by Hollywood. When I first came out, which is in September, I think it was, I got a lot of messages from friends that I had known for 20 years who said, "Thank you so much. I feel the exact same way. I can't speak out because I need to
hmm
support my family." These are
Yeah.
people I knew for 20 years that had no idea that we
Yeah.
shared the same, sensibilities. And and they're continuing to perpetuate the narrative of the left that there is that conservatism doesn't coexist in Hollywood, because they think that they need to provide for their, that's how I'm going to provide for my families. Unfortunately, or, what's happening simultaneously, just the nature of the way the industry has developed, people can't make a living on one episode on something a year anymore. You used to be able to do that because of the way the union was set up. You'd make money off of reruns. We don't really have reruns anymore. It's all digital. So it's going on platforms that are getting rerun all the time. So you don't make money the same way. And I think people are really being held hostage to this idea. I think, we're all like these ego-driven narcissists in a lot of ways. So it's like the idea of having a different job, like being seen at, say, Trader Joe's as an employee there when I once was on TV. I can't do that. So I have to like stay with this like pipe dream, perhaps I'll get my show. And I don't think that's an American quality. I think Americans can be humble and, can fit into any role in society. Even like Antonio Sabato Jr., like he got rejected from Hollywood for speaking some truth. And he went to Florida and he started working in construction and taking care of his family. And I believe he said, I might be making this up, but I think he actually like spent a summer digging ditches to provide for his family.
Wow.
And that's an American quality. And that's something, there's so much like, oh, I'm verified, I've got this many followers and I'm on this show. And like, you'll be the slave to that mentality for the rest of your life. It'll be your downfall, your children's downfall, because you're playing into essentially the demise of society. And it breaks my heart. And I just hope that people have the wherewithal to speak out, to know, I have a deep faith in God. I'm not particularly religious, but I do believe there is something greater than us and that we're fundamentally created to thrive and survive. It's just the nature of law. And we've been embedded with this idea that no, there is a lack, there's a limit, you're going to fail, there's nothing left, you're going to be destitute, you're going to be homeless. And that's not what America's about.
No,
and
I don't think so either.
And so me, it's like, my mind is like, yeah, I want to be an actress. You guys are creating a bunch of propaganda and craziness. I don't want to be that kind of actress. I'm going to take this leap of faith and believe that the net will appear and that I will be supported because I am listening to my intuition that nobody can rob me of, that I can tap into. And I know that if I go through any contrasting experience, be it, people trying to slander me or, bring me down or take away opportunities or get canceled, that's all insignificant because the universe is designed by divinity for me to thrive, for you to thrive, for all of us to thrive.
Once you're in that alignment of like living what you believe in your truth, the universe starts to respond to you, and you can see past the people who try to bring that down because it's obvious that they're jealous, they're insecure, they don't like what you're doing,
they're in fear, they're afraid,
they're having cognitive dissonance because you're saying something that they don't agree with or understand, and they can't change their brain. And I had an interesting experience recently. I spoke to a screenwriter, no names, because he's, kind of in the same situation where he's basically being held hostage by the belief system. And he's like, I could never do what you're doing. I just think you're so brave. And I was kind of blown away because like he's been involved in some films that I've seen. And I'm just like, really? And it's just, and I was interesting because I read a script of his, and then I even like sent him a little video clip of like me reading some of it because I'm kind of interested in getting into it. Like I would love to do that sort of thing, act or write or edit or anything. Just kind of want to. I guess I used to think that it wasn't possible for me, so now I'm trying to like believe in my dreams and blah blah blah. But he was like, I'd love to hire you, but. And started talking about like the representation in Hollywood and how they were like, oh, we already have this many white people in the movie.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because as someone coming into it, you have a fresh perspective of it. For the last 6 years, I heard you're great, but you're white. We're going to a diverse character.
Yeah, and I was just like, that's so unfortunate. And he's like, the other thing is they would Google you and see what you're doing and you might not be able to get hired. And I was like,
Unfortunately, it's people like him that need to take this stand, because we can coexist. We're not trying to convert anyone to our way of thinking or make our thinking the primary thinking. It used to be that Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, alien believers and fake moon landing believers all coexisted, and for some reason, the only thing that can coexist in Hollywood is liberalism, Gwyneth Paltrow putting crystals up her, you know what I mean? Like, that's okay. That's okay. We're cool with that. But like, because I think that there should be, I don't know, what do I think? Less government, that I'm the weirdo?
Yeah.
Because I don't trust the government. I'm not allowed to participate in this stuff. Like, come on.
I know, it was kind of like, it was just like a little wake up call for me. I was like, oh, so if I want to break into the industry, I'm going to have to work with people who are like outside of that way of thinking, because I just don't want, I can't bend who I am anymore. Like I've already completely changed who I am. I would just be taking a step backwards by like going into changing my name again and trying to like fly under this radar, because that's not what I want. Like I want to tell true stories. I want to be involved in honest art, and I don't want to be involved in propaganda.
Yes.
But I've always loved writing, and like all my teachers have been like, never stop writing, and
well, there's a need and there's a market to fill that. There's so many people who, even on the left, are sick of the liberal agenda narrative, and we just want stories. We don't want right stories versus left stories. We just want stories of humanity. And I think you're right. Like, we're not going to quote unquote change Hollywood. I think either the people in Hollywood, like the man you're speaking of, he's either going to start sticking up, and if they haven't done it by now, I can't foresee any other Hollywood elite other than Matthew McConaughey has sort of said something, but like they're petrified, they're in fear, they're compromised, that all that stuff that's going on. The alternative is you and I have access to cameras, we have access to lighting equipment, we have authentic narratives to tell, and it's up to us to do it ourselves. And I think the one thing that the left has that we on the right, or whatever we qualify ourselves as, I guess, alternative to the left, is the left has years of experience of polishing something and making it look good, right? Like making it look marketable. And it's even like we've got these people like Patrick Brin, right? And we've got these fringe people, right? The Overstock guy. He's like, you know what I mean? But it's weird. All the people on the right are like these sort of weird oddball fringe people. They're like, that's a CEO, like, but he's saving us. And so, it's and whatever, for some reason, we put out our content on the right, it's always got this like sci-fi, like X-Files music behind it. And you're like, is this real? Is this you know what I mean? I think, but it's going to take creative minds like yourself to sort of like polish it up and put it out there so it's palatable, so that the message itself isn't so extreme in its delivery.
Yeah. That's the thing, that it has to be done though as well, because the left own everything. So unless you do put the stuff out there, you're not going to see the other perspective, because the left owns all the media outlets. I mean, right now it's Donald Trump versus the world.
Yes. Well, you guys know Topher Music and the something Marine Patriot. So Topher Music on Instagram, he's like a Bryson Gray. He makes music and he's got a great positive message. And he went to #1 on the hip hop charts over this last weekend. We're pushing for going to #1 in all the charts, but he has no studio behind him. He put it out independently, and it's being received. Like, we're on the charts. It's not me at all, but as people on our side, as a collective, like, we're taking the platform over ourselves and doing it ourselves because we have that capability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a rapper from the UK called Can Coke as well, who's just made a song called Coke Conspiracy. And he's gone in about the pandemic. He's gone in about Hollywood.
Is there a lot of tinfoil in the video?
Yeah, he's got a tinfoil hat on.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes,
really good. Like, I hadn't heard of him before, but apparently he's quite well known over here, and he did good with that. He did. A friend of mine, Alex Rosebets, actually interviewed him on an Instagram Live, and he wasn't very woke to the Trump stuff, but he knows all about Agenda 21, 2030 and things like that. So the way I see it, as long as some of the seeds are being planted, it will wake people up to start looking into the rest. You know, Donald Trump is one of the hardest ones for people to accept. I always personally liked him because the moment I saw the clips from the debates back in 2016, I was listening to him talking about Hillary's emails, and I was looking at everyone going, Hillary, Hillary, and I was thinking, who deletes 33,000 emails? And there's just something about her face that looked like she's evil. She just looked evil to me. And when he was saying all of her corruption and she was grinning, like this psychotic grin, I was like, the people are wrong. This man's good. She's bad. Like, and that's before I knew any of the stuff I know now.
That's exactly where I was at. I was like, Hillary is clearly evil. You can just see it in her face.
She's got a horrible grin on her face. And she's like, it's almost like, it looks satanic.
Yes. And
I felt for not knowing.
When he said the thing, she goes, do you really want this man head in charge of national security? And he's like, if I was, you'd be in jail.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that's one of the best lines I've ever heard someone deliver so quickly. Like, savage.
And
I just had no idea.
Yeah, and he spoke of draining the swamp and changing things. And I'd been fairly asleep, somewhat intuitively picking things up, like, oh gosh, these guys only pander to minority groups during elections. These guys being the Democrats, and like, ooh, Obama really rubs me the wrong way. Why are we talking about race so much? And I never got the sense of, just question, like, but not like really being wide awake. But when he said, I want to drain the swamp, I was like, I always thought there was a swamp. Wait, there's really a swamp? I knew there was a swamp. And then like he starts draining it and they go after him. And it's not what they say, it's what they keep from you that tells the most. And the narrative that they tried to create about him. And like he was celebrated in the hip hop world, and all of a sudden he's a racist. Like, give me a break.
I mean, my family is sleeping bad, but over here the propaganda is awful to the point where I was, my nan was giving me some money for Christmas, and I was going to get my passport so I can come to the States with it. And she was like, "That's not a good idea. Everyone's starving because of Trump, and he's killing everyone because of COVID." And I was like, "Right, you need to slow down." I was like, "We need a chat. We need a serious chat." They're really brainwashed over here.
Well, I think that
I'm trying.
I've heard that say, like, I have a friend whose family is from Greece, and initially they thought Orange Man bad, but when they started to see like socialism coming out, and like the people who have actually lived through something and know the tactics of the manipulative political movements, they're like, oh God, yeah, this is bad, and Trump is good. And it's a process of an awakening, and I think it goes back to people who are comfortable with not taking initiative to exist, who are comfortable with the lull of being taken care of. But then there's people who have fought to survive in the midst of socialism, who have left socialist communist countries, and who can see the forest for the trees and see the propaganda on the news. I mean, anyone who believes CNN right now is just like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, and now I understand so much more than I did. But like before, I would look at like a Black Trump supporter and be like, well, they obviously hate themselves. That's how I felt. Like liberals are so deep in their own shit that like I was saying before we started recording, they think they're doing the right thing. Right. They think that this is justified and that we need to be angry, and it's like somehow virtuous to just like, it's just, the whole virtue signaling thing where you kind of like, no offense, but the black square thing, it was just like, what does that
what does that do? Yeah. Wait, so the whole you need to be angry thing, it's weird, like that's being pushed as like, what sort of mantra is that ever? You know what I mean? Like, be angry, it makes it mean you care. If you're disrupted and uncomfortable inside, you care. If you're not, you're insensitive and you're part of the problem.
It's a similar narrative happening with the masks. If you don't wear one, they think you want to kill people. They go straight to like, well, you just want to murder my grandma. And I'm like, Really? Oh, did she freeze?
Mhm.
It
Oh, yeah.
might be coming back. There it is.
You're back.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't understand like how people go straight for like, you don't agree with me, so you obviously want people to die.
Yes. Yes.
They just go straight
Totally.
to that. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
The masks have
Uh-huh.
caused more division than I've ever seen in my life. Like the world is split. It's mask versus no mask. And if you try and fight for people's freedom,
Yeah.
you are selfish. And you are, I mean,
Right.
there's news reports literally saying people who don't wear masks or
Right.
social distance have psychopathic traits, experts say. This is what they're doing.
Unbelievable.
BBC the other day as well. How to speak to your conspiracy theorist
Oh
friends.
my God.
More like how to speak to your sleeping friends because they need to wake up. That's that's what it should be.
And people
It's worrying.
Sorry for people who don't understand that, like Project Mockingbird and the CIA projects where they, excuse me, experimented with propaganda through the news.
Right.
It's like that doesn't just stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they get away with it.
Exactly. And I think that people are intelligent enough to be like, oh, in China they have propaganda in the news, but not here. But why where's that disconnect? Like what they know it's there. Why wouldn't they imagine it being here?
Because it's too difficult. Then like you have to change everything about yourself, and it can be a really hard thing. And for me, I ended up doing it because I was just I had quit my job, and like I didn't have people checking on me. I don't have consistent friends. I had a couple people I went to like the BLM stuff with because I wanted to be supportive. And,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? All that stuff. So I mean, I went to like a vigil for Deion Johnson out in Phoenix. I mean, that was an unfortunate case. I don't know what really truly happened, but it's not like I want that to happen just because I'm against BLM. You know what I mean? And it's just the organization. The roots of it are just awful. I started to look into who the leaders were.
Yes.
Charles Wade got arrested for like human trafficking, and I was like, there it is. You know, and then there was like the Marxists and people who were openly like, oh yeah, no, we want socialism, we want Marxism. So that all leads to communism. And there's so many warnings in the past about that repeating, and it's like, I don't understand who thinks this is a good idea, but we've been conditioned through literally everything coming at us through our screens, between the movies and the news, everything we're watching. Everyone's been like hypnotized. And so I had to take the time to be like, okay, it's okay if people don't like me for this.
Yes.
Fine with that. Like you have to just be willing. And like I gained so much respect for so many people in such a short amount of time, because I'm like, Trump supporters know what people think about them.
Right. Right.
They know.
But
and
don't care at all.
You have to just get past that, because it's American value to be able to stand in your beliefs and not care what other people think about you. And we're losing sight of that. And like you were talking about people who gave you flack for standing up for America. Like I didn't realize how depressing that was until I started to really research, and I was like, oh, we're supposed to be like moving forward and supporting our country. And oh, I'm sad now. And like I saw this girl on TikTok who got a ton of flack for just having a flag in her background.
Wow.
It was like she made a TikTok crying because people were so mean to her about it.
Oh,
unreal.
God.
And she was like, I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter just because I'm an American flag. And
it's not okay.
I was like,
it's not okay.
What? So it's gotten to this really unbelievable level, and I don't understand how more people don't see it, but I think that they are. And I think that there's going to be more people waking up. It's just coming in wave after wave after wave. I mean, we were talking about how there should be another wave ever since the 21st, you know, that reset, the solstice, the solar flash kind of thing is sent out like a new wave of energy.
Oh, good.
And I don't know about you, but I've been just kind of emotional ever since. And I've had like a new wave of like having to cleanse myself and process even more, because I've changed who I am entirely this year. And it's just been a lot.
You've gone through a major transformation, and you are the emblem or the symbol of the totem of what's possible, truly, that you resemble all of it. And you're such a, I mean, really, what you've done, I think, will probably historically be very significant. You, in my mind, you made a big impact on me, and I can only imagine how many other people as well.
Sweet. Thank
you. And you know, and that's the thing I think people don't realize is like we're living through history right now, and it matters who you decide, what sort of characteristics you decide to embody, and that will go down forever in the books. You know, what did you represent? What qualities of humanity did you represent? And even if someone's on the left and they're so convicted to their thought process, you know, I think more than anything, fine, believe what you want to believe. But if you're not capable of having a conversation, not just a list of why I'm wrong, then there's no growth or development there, you know, and that's capped off and limited to what sort of human you are. By definition, the growth is part of the magic in humanity, right? And if you're like, nope, this is how it is and this is how it's going to be, like, what are you?
Yeah, I thought the whole point was to be able to grow and change and learn and figure things out, because this is kind of just, this is school. Our experience is it's the learning experience.
Yes.
People are allowed to, they're supposed to be allowed to make mistakes and be like,
absolutely.
oh, I messed up, my bad. Now I know better, you know. And but then cancel culture started to rise up, and I just think it got really out of hand.
It was weaponized. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
just,
you know, I think for so long, like, I again never identified with the right or the left. I always consider myself an independent, but you know, sensible people are like, oh wow, they're crazy, like aggressive with their message of needing to be like called a woman when they're actually, you know, originally a man. But like okay, like relax, we go ahead, we don't care, do what you want to do. But then, you know, we didn't put our foot down when it was hyperimposed on what I was and wasn't allowed to say, or, you know what I mean, what we were or weren't allowed to do for the sake of these people's feelings. For a while, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, no worries, like, all right, we won't, like, and then it's like, hold on, no, we let it go too far. Two genders, guys. I'll call you whatever you want me to call. Two genders. You know what I mean? Like, let's not change reality let's not bend and warp reality for insanity. Like, and I said this for a long time, and everyone's saying it as well. It's like we're all in the emperor's new clothes right now. We're repeating a narrative to make, quote unquote, these people feel better. And because people on the right do care about people's feelings, they're like, okay, sure, like, go ahead, say that. But that's partially our problem. We let it go for too long. You know, it's like there's definitive reality that we need to exist in, regardless of your belief system. There's gravity, there's a blue sky, there's the sun, there's two genders, you know, and Black people are not being hunted, and that's that. And you need extra special attention, sure. From here, we'll consider that. We'll go on. You want me to call you whatever? I'll call you whatever I'll call you the alien if you want me to. But
people deserve respect and dignity, but at the same time, they're sort of going too far.
Yes, it's gone too far.
Definitely,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I loved your reel earlier today when you were like talking about how people were getting angry about an actor playing a deaf person, and you're like, so if you're playing a murderer, do you have to murder people? Is that
and does that mean that now Elliot Page can only play transgender roles? Does that mean, I think, like, if you have to be what you're playing, then all of Hollywood is done for, because they're playing like these heroes and super like decent human beings, and I can tell you firsthand, a lot of these people are not that. You know, you know what I mean?
And it's like and so many of them are just blackmailed, and they think that they're better than people, and they're in this little club, and I've never, you know, I started to realize that these big parties that they have for like charities and stuff, it's like, just give them the money. What, like, why are you having this huge lavish to do about charity?
Right. I'm like, I would go to these events and be like, well, how much money is being spent here? Shouldn't that just go to
the
charity? I don't know. Yeah.
It's just, I started to pick it apart and be like, what is really going on? Because I've loved movies for so long, and you know, you get attached to these actors, you get associated with them, with looking up to them, and then you find out that they're just awful, and they've done horrible.
It's bad.
They've killed out their children, they've abused children because they were abused as children, because that's how it works. You continue this cycle of like, this is how we live. So I'm just going to pass it on down because that's how I survive. And it's not a joke. Like, people don't understand that the Illuminati is real, and a lot
It
of these
is,
Yeah, that's the one thing I always am like, okay, being in Hollywood for 20 years, like I knew about Weinstein, everyone did. It wasn't even like it, and the thing is, it wasn't people. I will not say anything about the particular victims that have come forward, but
of course.
it was a part of a negotiation, basically, people would engage in, you know? And yes, he was a monster and a predator to a lot of people, but a lot of people also put themselves in the situation, participating in it. Awful guy, obviously. And they all knew and then pretended like it was some big surprise. We knew about Kevin Spacey being a weirdo. We knew about, I knew in particular, there was this house on Mulholland. I had a boyfriend when I first came out to Los Angeles, like all the young boys get taken advantage of there. And, you know, it was like information that was wild, you know, Ellen DeGeneres, not a nice person. Everyone knows that.
And don't get Matt started on Ellen.
Don't get me started. She's one of my pet hates.
Like an Illuminati, like I'm like, how did I miss that? Like I have never seen or open secrets about that. That's like absolutely inherently true. The only thing that I've come to realize that was like just speculation. Okay. Oh, there's this other thing called the gay mafia that allegedly runs Hollywood. That's a thing that people talk about. But this Illuminati was always like sort of something that was discussed amongst like normal people, meaning like audience people, not necessarily. I know we see it in predictive programming in our films, you know, like Eyes Wide Shut and, you know, other American Horror Story. Did you see the one with Lady Gaga? I mean,
adrenochrome.
Exactly. So, but in terms of a functioning group, I have never been privy to it. And maybe it's just because I never got up that high on the ladder, but I always thought, I mean, I know that women slept with men to get particular roles. I know there's like a method to getting somewhere. You have to show up on the carpet with the right person and date the right person. And like, I know that's all there. I was never comfortable in participating in that. And I think that has a lot to do with why I never got, because I wouldn't say the same thing. I remember I did, you know, interviews and I was like, Second Amendment, you know, and they're like, that's not really like what we do here. And, but I think that if you play the game right, you maybe get in touch with that firsthand. But the weird thing is I have never got the sense that it exists until I've stepped back and seen and heard things that are like, oh, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, really weird. Like,
we start looking into symbolism and like the old parties that they had, like the really big ones and the strange things they put on the table, the costumes, it all means something to them.
Right.
Like, what does it mean to them? And I started looking into things like that. There was a Savali interview. Have you heard of Savali? She was like supposedly an Illuminati survivor and spoke out about their way of life and how they raise people in it. And they raise you. I mean, if you're a child born into their system, they pretty much raise you to believe that you're like this special being. You're meant for, you know, something important, and you're just indoctrinated into the club, and that's just the way it is. And they make you sort of like dissociate and not fully. I don't know how to explain it, but like, you're not supposed to care about things, and you have to be willing to like die and sacrifice things that you love to get somewhere. And like I've heard things like, you know, Matt knows somebody who was getting somewhere in Hollywood, met up with someone, and it was like either you sleep with them or you never work again.
Yeah, that absolutely exists. Absolutely exists. And it's a really odd way to function as a business. And even that, you know, I know that there's been sort of like agencies that are participants in that. And, you know, I saw a piece of a documentary with Evan Rachel Wood, and she's like, everyone in Hollywood has been abused, and it's just a matter of degree. And if you haven't been, you're lying. And it's just a matter of what you're willing to take, because if you won't, the next person will.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I've heard so much about her and like Marilyn Manson, and it's so horrible.
What did you hear about? Oh, well, we don't have to talk about now, but what I haven't heard.
Well, she dated Marilyn Manson, and he a psychopath.
Yeah, I actually knew them.
Yeah.
He's an actual like.
I've
He
heard
is
bad
an
things about him.
abuser. He is a real abuser, and he went through so much.
pretty familiar with.
It's so awful. But I mean,
he even makes jokes about abusing children. He makes jokes about it on stage, and then you look at it, and it's probably true. That's the worst thing.
funny.
Like they're not lying. These people, they're not lying.
Yeah, I guess what I always thought. I mean, there was this one time I was like 23, 20, 21, 22. And we went to Vegas. It was a group of friends, like Hollywood types. It was like, to me in my head, it was like, oh, this is the Andy Warhol of our era. There's like an artist and a musician and a costume designer and a this and a this and this. And we were friends with that gang, right? Part of the people you're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. We were in Vegas, and one of the guys is on a TV show, and he was like, Sami, to call downstairs and ask for 2 Filipino boys to be sent up. And I was like, I thought he was obviously joking. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. That's a funny prank. And I did it. And in hindsight, it's like, oh my God.
Oh wow, yeah.
That was like, was that a joke, or was that, and you know, the things that had been revealed in those few years following that incident, it was like, oh, something's really bad here. You know, something's really strange, and it's a weird business. It's a really strange business, you know, but there are good people in it. I know.
I was literally about to say not everyone's corrupted.
Yes, not everyone, and I don't know what the next step looks like, or what, you know, how Hollywood continues on. Like, I know all of America, and maybe, you know, where you are too, are done with the celebrity culture and Hollywood as a source of entertainment. We're like, everyone's like, screw those narcissist elitists with no brains. Like, get out of my life, get out of my feed. I don't want to see you anymore. People are sick of it.
I unfollowed so many people that I realized like just weren't who I thought they were. And I mean, I don't know how we delude ourselves into thinking that we know them, because they just present whatever they want. And then you realize who they're really associated with. And there's people like Marina Abramovich who's involved with like Lady Gaga and like Jay-Z.
And the way that the media presents those people, I remember when she had like her art exhibit publicly, and people came out and saw, they normalize it, right? They make it so benign, and
they're like, performance art.
Yeah, look how cool is the artist. And they're like, oh, artist, okay. So if it's artistic, we accept sort of like culty satanic things. It's okay. If it's on an American Horror Story and Ryan Murphy makes it, you know, we accept it because it's creative and like dark.
And you think it's fiction. You don't think it's real. Like, we're only real. You know, I'm sure we've all done it, but we've watched things and been like, where do they get the genius ideas for this? Because they're doing it. They're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing.
Like
movies like Hostel are what these elites do.
Oh God.
They literally torture people, you know, and they enjoy it. They film it.
I can't.
I mean, I've had a guy, so he left the industry in 2002. He was an actor. I don't want to name him because he'd probably get mad at me, but he told me that what you were saying, that there are good people. And he said the thing is, a lot of these people, they're either threatened that their family are going to get killed or something, or without even realizing, they've been videoed somewhere where they didn't even take part. Like, there could have been some abuse of a child taking place, and because they're in the room and they're not doing it, they're on film and they go, are you sure you want to say something because you're here? Like, you know, the blackmail goes that far. And one of the craziest things he told me was about the music industry. And he told me that literally every song we hear on the radio, when they finish doing the recording, they take it into a back room, they get microphones out, and they chant satanic curses onto the tracks. And this could be the happiest song you've ever heard. Apparently, they chant satanic ritual curses onto the tracks and then mix it in so you can't even tell it's there. And that is why the frequencies are already hazardous to our health. They play music at, but it's got that on it as well. So we're listening to satanic rituals while we're listening to our music. And like, it could be on the most happy song,
right?
You know,
it could be
like full of love. Yeah.
Born This Way or something.
Right. It could be all on Taylor Swift. So that's really scary because our children are being inundated with that, and they're being brought up on that. It's all so scary. I can't get my kid off of TikTok, and he's obsessed with it, and I'm just like, this is so bad. What do I do? You know, this is like,
it's Chinese spyware. You want to get him off that.
Yeah.
Chinese communist. Do you guys think
It is.
I know. Do you guys think it's weird at all that that all the nurses are dancing to TikTok? Do you think that's
This makes me so mad.
Yeah.
I've had people calling me, people are brainwashed. They said to me, wow, you're so horrible, all because the nurses made something on a break. I was like, you do not choreograph, rehearse, and record on a break. Think how many times have you taken a selfie and gone, nah, delete, take another one?
Yes.
Do you really think on your break you could choreograph, rehearse it with all of them, and record? No, the hospitals are empty. They are empty.
Yep.
One of the other things they're not talking about.
They're laughing at us.
Oh yeah, and the other thing they're not saying is they try to claim that their hospitals are overrun, but like some of the reasons that some of them are busy is because people are being forced to stay home and they're being put on furlough and they're not even working. And so then the people that are there are either really busy or they're so not busy that they have enough time to make a freaking TikTok dance.
Yes, and they're cutting beds back. So if there were, say, 100 beds in a hospital, they'll cut it back to like 40 beds or 60 beds and then call that full occupancy, even though it's even less than, you know what I mean? Less than what it would have been had they not had those 40 or 60 extra beds. It's all trickery. And and if you question it, you're an extremist kook, you know, who doesn't care about the rest of society. And I think that for me, personally, the next phase, my whole thing was like, I'm going to try and expose how Trump supporters aren't necessarily as bad as people on the left make them seem. I'm going to put out information and content that disrupts that whole narrative. But now my whole thing is like, okay, you know, we actually do really need to unify to get to a place of productiveness. And I know for me, for a second, it was like, I'm going to be really like informative and like patient. And then I got so much heat and attack. I'd just be like, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like
it's hard to say.
So, but I think now that, you know, my message of our messages of awakening, because we're tied to Trump, we're not going to be taken with an open mind from people on the left. And I feel like, you know, even what's his name, Anomaly, like he's someone who he supports Trump, but he's also palatable to the left, and so people hear what he's saying because they're like, that can't be a Trump supporter, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's not a redneck, but I guess that's what Trump supporters, I don't know, but you know, the idea of like telling American stories, creating an American narrative of value and grit and perseverance and opportunity and getting knocked down and falling, getting back up. Like, those are the stories that I want to start to like really emphasize and to sort of shake the left-right thing, you know, and like, I don't think that has any necessarily at this point in time, any much positivity to it to keep us so separate like that. So that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm working on a platform called Rad America. And and so just like this place for, you know, different podcasts and video people and telling stories, whatever, uncensored, you know, whatever that American story is. And I'm also working on podcasts. I think I'm going to call it American Dad, but basically it's conversations, podcasts between my dad and I, all American Dad, you know, and like that sitting down from, you know, as the child to the person with a lot more intellection and scope of what's happening in life, sort of educating. And he's a big proponent for critical thinking. I think a lot of us miss that lesson. You know, how do you get to a conclusion, and how do you just keep digging, and what's the thought process look like, and what does it feel like? And, you know, just different ways of approaching information rather than just like, yeah, okay, you know,
that's just accepting it at face value.
Now
I'm angry because I read a headline that I believed.
Right. And the other thing that we're working on right now, obviously, recall Newsom, recall Gascon. Like, if that's not a villain name, I don't know what is. You know, like, that's the other thing. I'm like, how do you guys accept the governor of Michigan, Cuomo, Fauci, and Newsom, and Pelosi, and not look at them and be like, that's like literal villain material right there. The way their face moves, the way they dress, like, isn't there red flags going off left and right in that scenario? Like, bad people, you know?
Yeah.
And then finally, the final thing that we're working to push for is Take Back Cali. And that is to open up restaurants and open up businesses. They're not going to hand us our liberties back. We have to take them back ourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's what people don't understand. Like, I don't know. People who think that we're just 2021 is going to come and everything's just going to go away and we're just going to, everyone's going to take their masks off at the same time and be like, it's all fine now. Like, no.
Yeah. You're allowed out of your house now. Yeah.
Yeah, unless we all stand up and do something, this could be like a prequel for something worse to come if people don't stop.
Absolutely.
You know, they're going to push as far as you can go until people say, I'm not fucking doing it.
Yes.
They're going to carry on.
And I think that, you know, if anything, people, I would implore people to look at what sort of human characteristics you want to exhibit and how you can contribute. This is a worldwide domino effect, you know, and I had someone write me from the UK and they're like, if America doesn't stand up, the rest of us are doomed, you know, and it's like, people like you need to exemplify that, and the patriotism, you know, for this element of freedom and liberty. It's really not just American patriot, you know what I mean? It's a worldwide patriot to stand up and do what's right, to be the example for someone else to have the courage to do it as well.
I've had people mock me because they say, why do you care so much about American politics? And I'm like, because if America falls, the rest of us are going with it. Like, and I'm more patriotic about your country than my own, because this is communist land right now. Boris, the moment the fake election results came out, he applauded Biden straight away. And that told me what side he is on. Like, and the fact he's got us on harsher lockdowns, we're all being put in tier 4 now. He's adding new tiers as he goes along, and more and more of our freedoms are being stripped. And, I feel like a minority here, to be honest, because I'm here. My family won't listen to me. You know, my mum turned around to me and said two sentences that literally made me want to go. She was like, Trump should be assassinated and Obama should be president again. I was like, oh, wow, you need some serious help. I know this is the thing, though, because the news here, it's really bad. Like, if I went outside wearing this right now, I'd get called everything.
Oh, same. Here too. Yeah, absolutely. No, you absolutely would. And maybe that's something that we could think of together to hit that message larger, even if it's informative, like cute little videos of how the media lies. You know what I mean? What's that?
She does. She does them.
I've done a few of those.
Oh, great! But that infiltrate the UK as well, because there are people like you. It's just that you guys need to know that you exist. You know, there are people hungry for the message of reality.
Absolutely, and they don't fully realize it. They just know that something is off.
Right.
Like, what is really going on? And it's like you have to dig into a lot of history, and like I'm starting to dig into the history of the entire world, and like
I know
reading this book.
Oh, nice.
This is a really early edition too. It was like before it was fully published, so it's really interesting. But the back of it is cool. It says, they say that history is written by the victors, but what if history, or what we come to know as history, has all along been written by the wrong people?
Right.
So it goes on to talk about like different cults, what people believed in like the beginning of time, the way things evolved, what Freemasons believe, and all that stuff, and the ancient rituals that they do, that they have basically just continued and modernized. And we don't even know about it, or we think that it's like too far-fetched or something, you know. And when I started looking into like Planned Parenthood, you know, it's something that I used to support. I used to go there. I used to get my birth control pills from there. And one of the things that I did in my wake up process this year was I stopped taking my pills, and I started feeling a lot more balanced and less crazy.
Right. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that. Yes, get off birth control.
It made me feel insane, and I didn't realize it was like one of my biggest problems. That was probably stopping me from thinking super clearly, because, and I'd been on them since I was like 14. So I was like, I couldn't imagine life without them until I was just like, you know what, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see how I feel.
Yeah.
And then I started looking into like ancient gods like Moloch and noticing that their Planned Parenthood headquarters looks like a temple.
Right.
And you're just like,
gosh.
it's not a coincidence. And it's not, people are like, oh, that you're ridiculous for trying to put those two things together. They're completely unrelated. And it's like, are they? Because look at who founded Planned Parenthood and look at how racist she was. There's an agenda there. They're trying to eradicate certain kinds of people. And so I just wish the left would pay attention to things more like that. It's like, you want to dig up all this history, but you don't even want to talk about Joe Biden's history or Kamala's history or why aren't we talking about, you know, who founded Planned Parenthood? Why aren't we talking about what's really going on? It's like they just sort of pick and choose. And the hypocrisy is just astounding.
Even in the process of BLM this year, the documentary The 13th on Netflix, it talks about the 13th Amendment and how like slavery is essentially put into the prison form. And they go through the political process of the crime bill, right? The 1994 crime bill. And so they're pointing out, oh yeah, this is a Democrat thing. They push it, but somehow like it's like, no, we're going to ignore that part. We're going to say it, but not mean it. Like we're going to say it, but not cognitively take it in.
And not even talk about how Joe Biden was partially responsible.
The author, they called it the Biden crime bill.
Yeah,
literally. They twist everything though. I refused to watch the Jeffrey Epstein on Netflix because they tried to make it all about Trump. Yeah. I was thinking, excuse me. I was like, what about Hillary? What about Bill? What about everybody else that's actually been on that island?
I know a photo of them at the same party doesn't prove anything.
He kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago.
But I will say that's not how a lot of things are being pieced together. I've noticed
a lot of it.
Even on our side, like, well, they're in a pair, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think we're making a few reaches here and there, and we need to be careful of not being the left too, you know. And that, hold on, I gotta plug my computer in 1 second.
No problem. There it is.
Yeah, people make a lot of assumptions, and then they kind of. I have to remind myself and remind other people that I was just saying. I have to remind myself and other people that we can't jump to conclusions, but there's certain things that it's like sometimes it's hard not to, like the pictures of Obama and Clooney on the boat.
Oh yeah,
that was the whole thing, and then people got mad at me for that because
why is he doing his flies up? You can't justify that. There is no excuse for that.
Wait, like there's other people on the boat.
He's doing his jeans up with the little girl just right there.
Yeah. But then it's a really awkward looking.
But people are arguing back, saying, oh, but there's other people on the boat. These people literally pimp their kids out. They do.
Yeah,
like Isaac Cappy even said it that some of these elite households, they rent their kids out to each other. Like to me, that says you do not love your child. I'm sorry, you cannot love your child if you're gonna let people abuse. That's sick.
Oh,
it's evil.
It was one of those things, though, that it was like some people were like, well, this is debatable because there's other people on the boat and you don't know what happened. It's like, but when you know things about Obama and the large order for hot dogs in the middle of the night, you're just like, what is this? You know, it's just it's hard not to make assumptions, but like, you know, there's to an extent we only know so much and we can't prove it, but we have this gut keep because of all of the other coincidences that just keep lining up, and you're like, how many does it take for you to believe there's something here?
Yeah, at least to even just examine it, you know, to question it and be like, okay, but can we have an answer?
Yeah. So it's just there's a lot of things that people just refuse to see because it just conflicts so deeply with what they've been raised on or told or believed before that, you know, like I had to accept that, like, you know, like in high school, I thought Obama was the coolest thing ever, and I thought he was handsome, and I wanted to vote for him, so I voted for him in his second term, and you know, I had like a schoolgirl crush on him, and then it's just like, no, I didn't even know what he really did or didn't do, rather, and I had to come to terms with the fact that we've basically been at war in every presidency, and then Trump started to get out of war, and suddenly that was a bad thing.
Why doesn't that matter to anyone? No war? That's significant. That is absolutely important.
And people like the people who are so deeply conditioned, there's nothing you can really tell them.
It's true, right?
It's just like,
there's not. I mean, one thing that got me was I tried to show people the Hillary emails, and the one I pointed out was the sacrificing a chicken to Moloch in the backyard. Right now, when you know the paedophile code, chicken's a child, right?
Yeah.
So I explained that, and they went, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You're reaching." And I was like, "Okay, either way, is it normal behavior, even if it was a chicken, to sacrifice things in your garden? That's not normal.
No,
that is not normal behavior. Like,
no.
But they you could hit them in the face with the truth, and they just won't take it. Like my mum, she told me, I like Joe Biden. I went, right. I was like, I'm going to show you a video right now of Joe Biden standing next to a young girl saying that he's so horny to be next to a 13-year-old. She went, I bet he didn't say that. I was like, I'll show you. She don't want to see it. They don't want to see it.
Right.
They refuse to see the truth. They won't look.
Right.
Yeah. And I have a problem with a family member too, who is like, we're not speaking, but he started asking my mom about Matt. And I was like, why are you don't get to know things about me if you don't want to talk to me? And if you're following me, how are you not learning anything?
Right. Yeah.
But we're still not on speaking terms. And it's just like, I changed my perspective, and then I got all these angry messages from certain family members. And I was just like, you guys are just going to have to like wait and see. I truly don't care that what you think of me, because I know that you're wrong.
This is the thing. I think that's why Trump supporters are like they are, though, as well, because I think we all know deep down that this stuff is going to come out, and a lot of people are going to feel very ashamed for the evil people they've been protecting, and the people who have tried to do right that they've been ridiculing. And we've got to just, I know it's hard because they can be very frustrating, they can be very abusive and things, but be some compassion, because this conditioning runs so deep, and a lot of people, you know, they don't want to believe that the people who are in charge of us don't have our best interests at heart, and they don't want to believe that everything they've tried to educate themselves on is a lie. They don't want to know that.
Absolutely.
There's so many people like already don't trust the government. It's like, well, let go a couple more steps.
And you're getting there. Keep going.
We're almost there.
And I think one thing that I think we've learned through this process, hopefully, is how important local government is. And like the president is one thing, but what's happening in our state is like a whole other thing, right? So the president's been very liberal in saying open up the country, but here in California they're like, nah, we're not going to. You know, in other states have done that too. It's like, but how did these people get elected? And who are these people? I went the last 20 years having no idea who is running California. You know, and now it's very clear to me, okay, that I have to be a part of this to make sure that the right people are involved and I'm okay with what's going on, rather than just being bossed around by these tyrannical governments.
Absolutely. Well, we're just gonna probably just a couple minutes left here, but I wanted to end on a more positive note. So let's talk about like how we kind of relax and how we survive being in sort of a hostile environment, and like how do you wind down, and like how do you bring yourself peace, and like, you know what I mean, what kind of things you do in your off time, kind of like unplug and wine.
I think that, you know, through this process, through the last few years, this process for me coming out and being vocal has only been since September. But leading up to that, my life has very much been about, you know, I've gone through addiction and mental health issues, and it's very much been about how do I get and stay at a place of being balanced. And I think if, you know, joy, happiness, perseverance, those are all qualities that fundamentally make up who I am. I definitely like get knocked over and get irritable and get annoyed pretty easily, especially in family circumstances, you know. But that being said, with the consciousness of where I want to be mentally and physically being a primary purpose, I can always go back to in meditation for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 20 minutes of centering myself, right? Because to me, there's the all-important, all-knowing universe, God, whatever it may be, that has put me in this position on life to be this mother, to be this patriot. And, you know, I can find my calling each day by tapping into that. So all the noise is just noise, right? So it's the practice for me has been it's really easy to become consumed with Instagram and the information and putting it out. And da, 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 da. But the practice for me has been starting to be like, okay, put that down and, you know, hang out with my kid and hang out with my dog and make eye contact. And and also for me, a great thing, rather than just, you know, being inundated with information, is being of service. So to me, being of service means sharing content, sharing resources, but also taking action and helping open the state up, helping get Newsom out. And I find quite a bit of joy in that. And I think, you know, one thing that is dangerous in my mind is like, we've got all these like quote unquote influencers out there, and they're directing us a certain way to do a certain thing, follow them, do this, do that. But it's like, they're the politicians. They want to get reelected. Are they trustworthy? You know, is Crenshaw trustworthy? Is, you know, what are their objectives? I think to embolden people with the directive to follow their own instincts and their God-given intuition to be something for themselves. Like, that's my mission, right? Like, don't follow me, follow your heart. And I'll show you how I follow my heart. And then you figure out like what your heart looks like and follow it.
Absolutely.
That's really what I've been teetering on lately.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
That's good.
So we're starting new platforms. We're just trying to lead people into themselves, really, because we're done with like idol culture and everything. So we just want people to know to keep searching within yourselves. Like, you don't necessarily have to like believe us, but take it into account, maybe consider it. And we've also built a little place for patriots. We've got a Telegram group. I'll drop the link for that in the description as well. And we're all there. Just sharing information in case we ever get like fully nuked and anything happens. We're still available for people to reach out to and get resources from. So, Samaire, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you've been great. Thank you.
We're going to get this broadcast up, and so people can take a look.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think what you're doing is amazing. Thank you so much.
We love you. Thank you.
We think what you're doing is amazing. You're very brave to do this because there's not many like you. So we are very grateful for you.
We're very unique yourselves. I mean, that's the whole message here, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. Much love. Feel free to hang out for just a sec if you'd like. Like I said, we'll get it uploaded and we'll get everybody in the premiere room. So thank you again. And
thanks, guys.
See you later. Thank you.